What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Team Chat Podcast, a video game show. I'm one of your hosts, Jarrett Wilson, joined to my right by Rachel Mogan.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno to you as well. How are you this fine, wonderfully sunny and spring day?
I was about to say, because of the time change, look at all the sunlight you can see in the
right?
background,
It's
everyone.
like a whole new studio, a whole new room. We're bright and illuminated.
It's been months since we've gotten to see the sun.
It is coming in a little harsh on that door, but that's all right.
I was just thinking that people might be thrown off because the door is never open.
Yeah.
So they're going to be like, something's off, but I can't figure out what.
I
That's
have
the
done
thing
that,
that's
though.
off.
Like, if the office door is open, the door behind it has to be shut, or else it's like a weird thing of like a vortex of like rooms, and you're like, what's up here?
Have you seen
It's a weird distraction.
any gameplay of that popular like horror game, I'm on observation duty?
No.
Where you're basically just reviewing security camera footage from both inside and outside any given location, like a house, a hotel,
Okay.
something like that. And you're just switching between the screens, but you're looking for supernaturally inflicted anomalies. So it's stuff, it's basically like
Interesting.
I Spy, but on super hard mode, because you're
Oh,
trying to
okay,
figure out
okay.
like what's different now versus when I checked back in 5 minutes ago. And a lot of it is stuff like doors that are now open that weren't open before.
Okay.
Or things like the lighting has changed in the background, so one of the lights has gone on or off. So I'm thinking like if this were an episode, not an episode, if this were an installment of I'm on observation duty, the open door
Would be the
our
thing.
new thing that people have to report, along with the new soundtrack behind me.
Oh, that's right. It's
Gladiator.
It's over here. It's Gladiator today. Yeah,
I can't believe
haven't
you
changed
would
it.
put up a non-video game.
I just like to keep it, keep it spicy a little bit with the variety. But that reminds me, you're talking about that of just like seeing the things and trying to see the things that are different. Have you ever heard? I think it's like its origin is from like a Reddit thread or something, or about the like.
Is this going to be about that haunted Pokemon cartridge?
No.
Okay, just checking.
I haven't even heard that one. No, this is one about some dude. And again, I have no idea the truth to this story or not, but of course it was presented as truth.
Truth in
Is
my
that-
2025?
Exactly,
It's
right?
less
What
likely
is
than
that?
you think.
Exactly. But the story is that this dude, like, had this like completely wonderful life, like great family, great job, great kids, and just everything was going great. One day he's sitting in his living room, notices his lamp looks weird, and that somehow triggers something that makes him realize, oh, this is a dream. I've actually been in a coma for a long time, or something like that. And all this like life that he lived with this family in his head was all fake. And it was like that one thing that stood out that like made him question the reality. And so apparently then he was like depressed because this reality he had been in for years is no longer real. And again, don't know the truth to that, but like that, talking about looking to see for the different like changes and everything, like triggered that memory in my head.
That's a good thing, though, because that means you have a lot of gray matter in your brain, and that's the good stuff
Oh,
that
that's
you
good.
want
That
more
means
of.
I want to fill that up. It's just full
you
of
you just
useless
want,
information.
You
just
want
like
as
that.
much gray smooshy stuff in there as you can possibly get.
So I can fill it up with video game knowledge to impart on all of you here on Team Chat Podcast, where
Good
we talk
transition.
about games, the ones we love, the ones we hate, and everything in between. New episodes come out weekly, and you can listen to those on podcast services around the World Wide Web, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and others. Speaking of Spotify, quick little tangent. Did you see that Spotify now allows you video episodes of podcasts on it?
I listen to Pandora.
That's right. I forget. But Spotify
only
does.
person.
We're not on there yet with video ones, but now I do want to figure out how to get them because
Yeah,
that'd
you
be
should
kind of
figure that
cool.
out.
So
That'd
then
be
it's
awesome.
it's on YouTube and you could watch a video version over on Spotify.
Yeah.
But until we figure that out on Spotify, head over to YouTube where you can watch a video version of each episode. We also have some Team Chat merch available that you can buy over on our TeePublic store. Links for all that are in the description below. You can also find us on social media such as Facebook, Threads, Instagram. Join our Discord server where we have a lot of great conversation when we're not here recording the show. And finally, if you'd like to help make the show bigger and better, spread the word out to the masses, well, you can head over to patreon.com/Team Chat Podcast, just like Allison H, Ark, Brandon W, Bro Mogan, Super Saiyan Ace, Erica L, Elise F, Fuchsia, James K, Michael B, Michael S, Snooty Boots, Susan M, and Zach S have done. They've gone over to patreon.com/Team Chat Podcast, where it's for as little as $1 a month. They support the show. In return, we give them cool perks like getting early access to the general release before its general weekly release, and access to a private channel on our Discord server, the Rogues Gallery. Patrons at our $5 tier also get early access to Team Chit Chat, which there will be a new episode of that coming out soon within this week. But other than that, any other good stuff like that? No, help. But if you can't do that, support us on Patreon. That's no big deal. There are a lot of great ways that you can support the show for free, such as telling your friends, writing us reviews, subscribing wherever you're listening to, or watching the podcast. It all helps. And for that, we're eternally grateful to each and every one of our viewers, listeners, and patrons alike. Heart emoji.
Heart emoji.
Heart emojis,
Did you see
everyone.
my incredible restraint that time
I did.
around?
I appreciated it. Yeah. It helps me with the smooth delivery. Not having...
I doubt it.
It really doesn't. I still
think
fuck up just
I think the
as
extra
much.
pressure helps.
I did like last episode when you were like, "No, we have no time. Go,
Yeah, we
go
don't have
quick."
time.
And then we just had to like rush through it, and it was like the best delivery of it I'd ever done. It was great. But
I should be rushing you more often then.
I guess
I'm sure
so.
everybody else is probably agreeing like, yes, you should be.
yes, you should be. Shut this fucker up. He talks too goddamn much.
If that's the case, put it in the YouTube comments, people. We just go down there and put something in there. We listen.
That's
sometimes.
true. We take the constructive criticism and constructive criticism only.
Unless you're saying that Dragon Age Inquisition is the best one of all time, in which case
In
we'll
that case,
respectfully and politely disagree.
We will disagree. But before we get to our main topic of the day, let's get a little bit of news and what's coming out soon in our moment
All
with
right, not
Mogan.
a lot of news to discuss right now, so we're mostly going to be going over games that are out now, recently came out, or are coming soon. We're only backtracking a little bit, though, because there are two games that I'm personally interested in that I think you slightly are, too. I just want to make sure people don't miss them. In case you missed it, because I actually did, Split Fiction!
Oh, that's right!
So Split Fiction is out now for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S. It is the new game from the team that did It Takes Two. It is also a co-op action-adventure sci-fi fantasy game, sort of like
really
that.
fun.
It looks really fun. I don't put too much stock into other people's reviews, but the early reviews of it seem to be quite positive, and I know that we were both pretty interested in playing Split Fiction for Team Chat Plays.
Yes.
So excited
Which-
to see that it seems to be doing well.
We missed the perfect opportunity.
Well,
because last Thursday was
Yeah.
was our Team Chat Plays, and we played Hitman 3. That just so happened to be the release day of Split Fiction, and we missed it. But oh well.
That's what I'm saying when I say I missed it. I thought it was coming out later this
yeah,
month. I didn't realize it was so early.
There's been a lot of stuff I feel like at the beginning of the year crammed
Yeah.
in pretty good. So we're keeping up with what we can. But Split Fiction does look like a blast.
Yeah, so whoopsies, guys. Also out now is Frag Punk for PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. We've also got out as of March 11th, another smaller game that I want to make sure people who are interested don't miss. I'm planning to get it, maybe not immediately with Monster Hunter, but pretty soon. Wanderstop is out now for PC and PS5. This was one of the games that was featured in, I want to say, maybe a Sony showcase a while back.
I was going to say,
it's the newest game from actually the director that did the Stanley Parable.
Yes. Okay, I remember this now.
But it seems to be a very different game from the Stanley Parable, which was, for lack of a better term, a walking sim. Wanderstop is more like a cozy-ish looking, I think you're a tea maker. I think you're running a tea shop out in the woods or something. You're like a retired adventurer that got burnt out on adventuring, so now you make
Took
tea.
an arrow to the knee.
Probably something like that.
Yeah, happens.
But anyways, I think it looks really cute and interesting, and I'm excited to play it just when I finished Astrobot and when I've gotten...
Oh shit! I can just start Astrobot.
I'm like halfway through Astrobot, but then Wilds came out, so I'm never gonna
Okay,
finish
I need to play
poor
Astrobot
Astrobot.
so we can do a review. And all that
Yes,
stuff.
get caught
delayed
up and
review,
then
but
delayed review.
nonetheless.
We'll get there.
We do nothing better than a delayed review.
And then coming very soon, we have a game you and I don't care about, but maybe other people do. WWE 2K25.
Top of my list though
Top
for
of the
March.
list. I do know that the WWE games typically have incredible character creators.
Yeah.
Like people make amazing monstrosities in that game. So I'm at least looking forward to some fun TikToks of people making their horrible
absolutely.
characters. That's coming out for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox on the 14th. We also have MLB The Show 25 for Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox. Then we have, oh God, it's like such a stacked month because, oh no, this isn't the game I'm thinking of, but 33 Immortals Early Access is coming on March 18th. This is for PC, Xbox Series X and S. This, I feel like, was one of those roguelite heavy action games that we were both kind of vaguely interested in. But
It does sound familiar.
I want to say that when we saw it, we both kind of went, oh, it's kind of like Hades. I feel like that was the vibe we got from it.
Does sound familiar.
Unless I've gotten my wires crossed. But so
because
if that sounds...
were you confusing it with the Expedition 33?
I was,
okay,
yes.
Because
That's
that's what I thought you were
got
saying too when you first popped up.
So anyways, 33 Immortals Early Access is out for PC and Xbox right now. Some of the people in our Discord will appreciate this, I hope. My Sims Cozy Bundle is out for PC on March 18th. And then coming out later this month, Assassin's Creed Shadows on the 20th for PC, Mac, PS5.
Wait, what?
It says Mac on the list.
Oh my God.
I don't know if that's true, but that's what it
what
says.
Are you doing?
They're going crazy out there. And then some other stuff. That. Oh, and then one more thing that maybe other people do care about. Xenoblade Chronicles X Remastered is coming to the Switch on the 20th as well. Everything else, I'm honest, that's a really long list. I'm going to skip the other stuff.
That's all right. That's all right. There's a lot to talk about today.
Yes.
Because today is a very special First Impressions episode. Because been mentioned a couple times already, but Mogan has been playing Monster Hunter Wilds.
And I feel like I am at the perfect spot in the game to have like a really good, what I suspect is going to be a good clean cutoff between first impressions and what will eventually be my final review. Now, the final review will be a long time coming, everybody, just letting you know, because Monster Hunter is not a game played in days. It is played over many months.
It is played in years.
It is played in years.
It's kind of like Civ 7. Like I'm still like wanting to wrap up and give a final review episode on that one too. But you know, I still got. I want to do a couple games under my belt.
You've still got so many more to go.
I got some time to go.
So Monster Hunter Wilds just recently came out at the very end of February 2025. In case you missed it, it is out for PC, PlayStation 5. And Xbox Series X and S? I think it's Xbox.
But no Switch this time, right?
No Switch this time. So unlike Rise, which did debut on the Switch and then I think later got ported to the other platforms.
Oh, that's right. It was Switch specific. That's right.
Yeah, it was. So for anybody that's unaware, there are actually two separate teams that work on Monster Hunter games. I do not know their names. I forgot to look it up before this, okay? But I know there are two separate teams. We'll call them A team and B team. So the A team works on the titles that are more visually akin to things like Monster Hunter Worlds, the previous big title that came out for the PS4, and now Monster Hunter Wilds. Again, the latest installment. They look very similar. Like if you put them up side by side, you'd be like, yeah, the same team probably did those games. Whereas if you put Wilds next to Rise, you'd be like, whoa, something's going on here.
Because Rise just does look like a little bit. Like, I think probably because it is was originally a Switch release game, it is not quite to the visual fidelity.
Maybe not to the visual fidelity, but also in terms of just pure aesthetics. Rise and the team at Capcom that makes Rise, they definitely lean a lot harder into the anime stylings. Whereas World and Wilds, those are more not necessarily trying to look realistic, because it's not a realistic game. That's not really what they're going for, but it's just a little bit more... I'll say closer to real life.
Sure.
Whereas Rise was like, no, we're not going to do that. First of all, you're going to be in pseudo-Japan with monsters. Second of all, everybody's going to be like maxed out to the 9,000s and the armor's just insane. Anyways, the point is there are two separate teams for Monster Hunter. So if you have previously played Rise, but not World, and now you're coming into Wilds, you're probably going to notice a lot of things that are different, and you might be sitting at home going, why?
Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of the changes are hard to digest. Again, if you're coming from Rise to Wilds, and to a certain extent also if you're coming from World to Wilds as well. So I want to preface this whole thing by saying that if you're listening to this episode and you get to the end and you think, wow, it sounds like Mogan really hates this game, I just want you to know that's not true.
It has differences.
It has differences, and many of them are objectively bad. I don't know if you were checking the Discord last night, Jared, but I was playing online with Bro Mogan and Snooty Boots. We're in a squad together. I'll tell you the hilarious name of our squad later. But I really needed them in there with me because I was like, okay, we're doing the first impressions soon. I really need to write down my notes. Doing it live while we're playing is going to help surface a lot of and give voice to a lot of the struggles that we've all been having. So I unfortunately put a rather large list of notes into the Discord, and I was like, if Jarrett sees this, he's never going to get Wilds, because he's going to be like, this must be the worst game ever.
I saw them going in. I didn't read them. thoroughly, but from like the little like preview of the message as it popped up on like the notification,
It was long.
I was like, oh, it doesn't seem glowing.
I think the title of that message was Wild's List of Complaints.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go.
And then it just sort of went from there.
Okay, so obviously there are complaints. Is it more because of its differences, arising from its differences, that it's different from Rise, or that it's taking things and being a lot different from World?
We'll talk about both. But first, let's give a little bit of preface to what Monster Hunter is. You know, presuming that you have never played a Monster Hunter game before, what is Monster Hunter? What's it all about? Maybe you're interested, maybe you're not. So the premise of Monster Hunter, you hunt monsters. I know that's
Plain
just
and simple.
crazy based on the title. How gauche of them, right? To have a game name that actually matches what you do. That's so out of style.
It's just weird.
So off-brand in today's world. But yes, so Monster Hunter is a game of like normal-sized human people wearing insano armor, wielding wild, bigger-than-life, incredibly like inventive and creative weapons against larger-than-life, insanely styled, awe-inspiring, gross, creepy, fun, cool, silly, like all different kinds of monsters.
I gotta hand it to him. The creature design of the Monster Hunter series is fantastic.
Is phenomenal.
So
And we
good.
will talk about that during the episode because I think it is one of Wild's real strengths. It's really going hard on the monsters, and it is definitely
that's
a
exciting.
good thing. So Monster Hunter is a game of people hunting monsters, and there is always this is my third Monster Hunter game. I started with World, then I went to Rise, now I'm at Wilds.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I thought you were a bigger, like a longer fan of the series
no,
than
that's
that.
Mogan and Snooty Boots. They've been playing since like the DS days.
My God.
I never played on the DS because it wasn't even on my radar.
Sure.
Like World was really the first time I ever saw Monster Hunter and paid attention, because before that the premise honestly didn't sound that interesting to me.
Sure.
But having played 3 of the games now, I can say it is an incredibly fun gameplay loop once you get the hang of it.
Once you get to the gameplay.
Once you get to the gameplay, and actually that's the first list of complaints
Well,
we're
let's
going to
get
talk
into
about.
it.
So this is not unique to Wilds, but it is enhanced in Wilds, is the fact that, and this is very personal because in both World and in Rise and now in Wilds, I do not give a flying fuck about the story. I don't care. That's not why I'm there. I'm not here to play the story.
It's one of those games. It's kind of like too, like recently, I would say, like what the more recent Call of Duty games have been there for. It's like you're not there for the story. You're there for the multiplayer.
You're there for the
that.
multiplayer.
It's like they include it because it's been the thing that's been there for so long. But like
exactly. So, and I would say that a lot, not all, but a lot of Monster Hunter fans, and especially the people that I play with, none of us are there for the story. We are there to get online, wear our silly outfits, take little in-game photos, and then go off and fight monsters together and have a good, silly, fun time. And
I barely got through the story. I don't even know if I ever finished the story of Rise, honestly.
I think I did, but I didn't finish the story from the DLC.
Oh, I didn't even play the DLC, so there we go.
Okay.
Whoopsies, I fell off.
Oops. But, that's perfectly normal. Monster Hunter, again, is not really a game that necessarily has a definitive end. Even when you, air quotes, beat the end of the game and you beat whatever the final monster is, there's still more game to play because, again, you're there to have a good, fun online time with your friends. You're not necessarily there for the story. So the story of Wilds, though, is that you always play as some nameless hunter because Monster Hunter is one of those games with really good character creation. So you play a nameless hunter that you eventually rename yourself, but everyone else in the game will just refer to you as the hunter. So the hunter has joined up with, I think, like a team of scientists and explorers that are venturing west. I forget which cardinal direction they're venturing. They're either venturing east or they're venturing
I hope they're
west.
going west and you named your character Fievel, but
God, that would have been hilarious. I don't think I did. I don't think I did. But they're basically venturing into what they know as like an uninhabited part of their continent. They know that this area has been off limits for a long, long time because it is so inhospitable, and they think that nothing is out there. But pretty much as soon as they cross like the tree line from the forested area into the deserts, into the wilds, they like instantly find trouble, and then they find a human boy lying partially dead on the sand. And they're like, oh my God, we got to rescue this kid.
Oh boy.
So they do. So they rescue this kid. They take him onto their like sand ship. It's like a
Oh, that's
pirate ship,
cool.
but it's on the sand. It's very cool. The stylings of Monster Hunter are incredible.
Well, yeah, because isn't it its world that has the huge ship, right? The Astoria?
Yeah.
Man,
Oh,
look
I
at
don't
me.
remember if that's
No.
what it was called, but it's still fun. It's
Something
still
like
cool.
that.
Yeah,
A
something. Like that. But anyways, the point is the ship designs are always really awesome. So you're on this ship, you find this kid, you rescue this kid, and then on the way, and then you like regroup, and it suddenly flashes forward to 2 years later. Sorry, I just kicked so much birdie hair
Oh, it's
into
okay.
the atmosphere.
Yeah, no, it's
Sorry,
fine.
baby bird.
It's shed season. The baby bird is kicking out the fur right now.
So it flashes forward to 2 years later. So the boy that you found, he now, I guess, has learned to speak your language because he comes from a village that your people have never heard of and didn't even know existed. So his name is Nata, and he is deeply scarred from an event of like a giant monster attacks his village. He's the only one he thinks maybe to survive because he was like dropped down into a tunnel by his father figure, and his father figure was like, go, run. And it's like, bitch, this hole is big enough that you also could come down here.
It's
But he
a
doesn't.
Titanic
Yeah,
door
it's one of those
situation.
It really is so accurate. It's a Titanic door situation. So Nata runs out into the wilds on his own, almost dies, gets rescued. 2 years later, he is obviously trying to get back to his people. He's very mysterious. He has this mysterious pendant that nobody can really figure out what it's made of. They're all very curious about it. So now you are basically on the trek back to where he came from to try and retrace his steps to help him find his village. This is a birdie.
What do you need?
Oh, goodness. Goodness.
Oh, she's so.
Oh,
so
she's just
silly.
very excited about Monster Hunter.
She really is. She just wants to. She wants to hang
She
out with
just
the
wants to play.
Palicos.
She does, yes.
She
She
wants
wants
to
to
be
hang
best
out with the
friends with the
Palicos. But so that's the gist of Monster Hunter Wilds' story. You are adventuring into new lands that your people are unfamiliar with. You're going to find all sorts of new villages, new peoples, and most importantly, new monsters to fight along the way. Now, that sounds very simple. And most Monster Hunter games are like that. The majority of the stories are very basic. And I would say that the story of Wilds is very basic. There's only so many things that you can say in a game to motivate your person to go fight big monsters on like a rapidly revolving door
Right.
of new missions for you to accomplish, which is why nobody cares about the story.
Well, and I
yet-
remember like the story of Rise, like, and even what I remember of World, like there's not a whole lot of depth to it other than just like there's one big bad monster who's kind of like on the way, rumored to be, rumored from ages past to be the most powerful of them all, and then you just hunt tinier monsters until eventually you like fight that big one.
You just summed up Wilds way better than I could because that's exactly what the plot is. It's
There
the
we go.
exact same plot
Haven't
again.
even played a minute of the game and I know it.
And he already knows. He already gets it, which makes it baffling to me that Wilds. So this is again first impressions. I've made it to HR 5, which just barely gets you into high rank, and most people are saying that once you get to high rank, the game really opens up.
Okay.
So presumably, I will have a different experience from here on, and God, I hope I do, because the first 10 hours.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. Like, how many hours are we talking right
First
now?
like a solid 10. Like
Okay.
almost a precise 10 to 11 hours, I think is what I've put into the game so far.
Okay.
And the story cutscenes are longer than ever.
Like Kojima style,
Like, not Kojima style,
Okay.
but like they're still long.
pushing it for what it should be.
And they just they tell a story that I do not care about. Now, to be fair, you
Yeah.
can skip them. You can skip most of the cutscenes. I think not all of them are skippable, but most of them are skippable. But all the same, it's just like, guys, do we really need this many cutscenes to tell this story? I really don't think we do.
It's for the character building, though.
It's for
damn
the
it.
character building, I guess. And some of the characters are good, but then on top of the like high fidelity cutscenes, there are also these other little betweeny mission cutscenes that I can only describe as ride-alongs. Because basically, in Monster Hunter Wilds, you and everybody in your crew ride chocobo-adjacent creatures called sacrets. They're just big birds. They're just big, cool birds. They're very fun. Everybody likes the sacrets. But there will be parts where you are like starting a quest to go on a mission, and just you're mounted on your sacred. You do not have a choice about that. You cannot leave the sacred. You cannot go off the automated path that the Sacred and the rest of your team are walking on, and the other characters will say dialogue, and you go at a slow pace.
Oh,
and it's
no.
like, what are we doing here?
'Cause, like,
what is happening here?
I mean, obviously, like that's a tried and true thing of games of you like having the traveling conversation while you're getting from point A to point B. But still, it's like a lot of games either adapt it to the speed of the characters as you're walking to allow the character to have the player to have their own pace. But Red Dead Redemption did that too.
This is an on rails, like you just have to suffer through it. You just have to sit there on the Sacred, and you can like look around and stuff.
Yeah.
But you can't really speed it up. And me and everybody I've talked to, it is like the worst feature of Wilds.
Well,
and I
especially
don't understand why they did it this way.
if you're trying to play co-op.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so here's the thing.
You know?
So if you previously played Rise, but not World, you might not be familiar with this, but this is a return of the mechanics from World. So in World, people could not join your quest if they had not already encountered that monster on their own. Now that makes sense. Like
Okay,
that makes
yeah,
sense, right?
sure.
That's, no spoilers. And also you shouldn't be fighting monsters that you are radically under-leveled for. You need to be at the right level to the other people in your crew to be able to take them down. Otherwise you're going to die and drag everybody else down with you. That's fine.
That's my gameplay experience.
But what that means is that, and this was true for both World and now Wilds, what that means is if your companion is behind you, like the person that you're playing with is behind you in story, and they go to start a story quest, you can't just join them because there's going to be a cutscene involved, almost certainly. Oh. So you have to wait. You just have to like have them tell you, like, okay, I'm in the quest. This thing is happening. This thing's happening. This thing's happening. It's like 5 minutes later, and they're like, okay,
no.
I got to the monster. And then
like,
once you're out of the cutscenes, then other people can come join you. But it's just infuriating to have to sit there and wait. Like, you can't even queue for the quest. If they haven't already done something, you just have to sit there and wait for them to tell you that the monster fight has actually started, and then you can pop in and join them.
And something about time, whenever you are the one who's having to sit there and wait for someone else on a game over a voice chat to tell you that it's
horrible.
there, 5 minutes is 5 hours.
Now, 5 minutes in some cases might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but like I said, some of those cutscenes are long as shit.
Yeah.
So that's like not a huge exaggeration. It's pretty close to that. So it is just, it's an infuriating system. I feel like Rise was able to do it in a bit simpler and easier of a way. Unfortunately, this is a holdover from World. Wilds just does this incredibly stupid thing where you just really can't play the game with your friends until you are all at the exact same level.
Yeah, that's weird. And so, like, I don't remember because my time in Worlds was a lot shorter than Rise. So in Rise, though, you could just join up and I don't remember. You could just join up and start a mission and play a mission at any point, or was there still some kind of like parameter?
I think there were still parameters, but it was a lot more simplified. And I don't unfortunately have the words now to be able to describe it. It was just easier.
Yeah.
Wilds,
I do not remember having any issues like joining up to go hunt.
Yeah, Wilds has more problems beyond just when you can join your friends on a quest depending on what the quest is. And this seems to be a pretty common complaint across all platforms for most people. The general consensus is, and I certainly agree with this, is that Wilds has radically overcomplicated its UI. Like, ultimately, I think a lot of its problems boil down to just too many menus. There is too much happening in all of the menus at any given time, and they feel incredibly sub-optimized. Now, the menus have always been, like, a lot in Monster Hunter. They've always been a lot, that's not new.
I remember trying to, like, go through, and I remember it especially in Rise, because, smaller screen of being on the Switch and all that different stuff, mostly playing in handheld. But even with World, I remember just being immediately overwhelmed by the inventory systems, understanding like, here's how I equip traps or different potions or other like things to use on the hunts outside of my missions and equipment. So yeah, Sad to see that carrying over still.
It's not ideal. Specifically, the way that you are able to join online lobbies, if you are trying to join a specific person and a specific friend group, there's a lot of little steps that have to happen before you do that. There's
Weird.
like all different, there are lobby IDs, there are user IDs, and then there are private lobby IDs. But sometimes when you enter in the code to join your friend's private lobby, when they give you the ID, you're still just going to get an error message and it's just not going to work. But if you keep trying, you just have to keep trying, because eventually on like the 5th time, it's going to let you in. So don't worry about that. But then also when you get to their lobby, the game might sporadically say, actually, you're back in single player online mode. You're not in the lobby anymore. And then you're like, what the fuck? I was in the lobby.
And you just got to do it again.
And then you have to rejoin the lobby. But sometimes if you're already in the game, it extra hates that you're trying to join the lobby. So you have to exit back out to the menu screen, and then you try to rejoin their lobby, and it takes about 3 to 5 tries, and then you get in. It is just... Now,
Jeez.
I think a lot of this is stuff that's in the early days of the game being live. I really hope that a lot of these things are things they are going to iron out, but the experience has not been great. Now,
Well, I mean, and we've run into that a little bit with like Tekken trying to set up a private lobby is not the easiest thing in the world either.
That's true.
I mean, give me Marvel Rivals. Like, it's 2 buttons and you're connected. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, that's nice. But like, is there a need for this much difficulty, or is it literally just like systems to put systems?
There's just systems to put systems. And God help you if you're trying to respond to a specific person's SOS flare, because you're
just out of luck.
You're just gonna have to pray.
my
pray that you get in touch with them. But the TLDR for anybody else that is starting the game and you've got specific people that you want to play it with, you need to create a squad. So make a squad. Invite your friends. It's going to take a lot of steps, but do that. Friend your friends, send them friend requests so that you're all in the friends together, and then you all join a squad. And from then on, you can join your squad lobby instead of joining recommended or just random lobbies. And that ensures that anytime you are already in the squad lobby, any of your other friends can jump in there, and it is a more seamless experience. And I still hesitate to say the word seamless, because it is not. It's not like a one and done thing. But,
Sure.
So squads is better, but good Lord, the path to get there was very confusing.
Seems unnecessary and confusing. Yeah. I can understand that would be, upsetting and frustrating, especially being veteran Monster Hunter players and just wanting to get to the meat of the game and the stuff that's actually like really, really fun. But obviously, you've done that though. Hopefully by this point.
By this point, I've done it.
Is there anything that's like really making this one shine out and stand different? I think I have to let her outside. I don't know what she's doing, but think on this question while I go let her outside. Is there anything like about it that has popped up yet that you are just like, oh wow, World's better than Worlds?
Okay.
And
we're back.
Birdie
Thank you for that brief dog potty break.
So anyway, having had time to think
Yes. So remind me what the question was.
Is there anything that
Immediately
just like really has like stood out to you as being like, oh man, Wilds is doing this way better than Worlds?
Okay. Yes. I mean, that's kind of a hard question to answer, because I wouldn't necessarily... I honestly wouldn't necessarily say that Wilds, air quotes, is doing anything better than Worlds or even Rise, but that's because the core gameplay of Monster Hunter is and always has been very fun.
Okay.
So once you actually get to play the game with your friends, it is a very good game.
Okay,
It is so fun.
I guess that's more my question is, do these like weird annoyances and like overcomplicated systems and all that stuff, is it detracting from the fun of the game? Or once you actually get to the monster hunting,
question.
Is the game still like, oh yeah, we're playing Monster Hunter?
Me and Bro Mogan and Snooty Boots, basically the entire time that we were online last night so that I could take notes and also we could play the game, like every 5 minutes, one or multiple of us would chime in and say, and another thing, because there was just always something new to bitch about.
Yeah.
But the ultimate boil down of that is we had a list so long and we were still playing the game for hours.
Yeah.
This is one of those sessions where like we started playing, I can't exactly remember what time, but I remember finally actually looking at the time on my phone and being like, oh my God, it's so much later than I thought it was.
I've got to go to sleep.
I've got to go to bed. Like
Yeah.
it actually like, it was that kind of game where you forget that time is passing
good.
because the time that you are playing in the game is so much fun.
Yeah.
So it is absolutely still, I would sum up Wilds as those first 10 hours are going to be so fucking painful if you're actually trying to play online with friends. If you're in it for the single player story, congratulations. They put more story in the game than ever before.
Yeah.
That is a real double-edged sword. if you're a single player, if you're an online single player mode player, you're going to have a blast because there's so much story. There are new characters. Olivia and Eric are excellent. I really like your new handler, Alma. You know what? I amend my statement. There is something that Wilds is doing radically better than World.
What is it?
The handler.
Oh, yeah.
So the handler from World, oh my God, she was awful. But Alma,
Was she just annoying like her?
she was so annoying.
I remember that, yeah.
I think you remember her.
I do remember her.
You'd see her and be like, oh, that girl. But Alma, your new handler, she is much more tolerable. She's very chill. I saw her on screen and I was like, Velma from Scooby-Doo? How'd you get in
Jinkies.
here? Yeah, what are you doing in here? But no, that's not her character archetype at all. She's really fun and cool. Most of the NPCs I think are actually quite nice. Number 7 on my list. Number 6 on my list. Nata sucks ass because that's the kid that you save.
Right.
So the kid that you save, Nata, dude, I get it. The story's about him and his trauma. If I have to see him cry on screen one more time,
no.
I'm gonna throw the PS5 through
Is it
the
like
wall.
every single time he's on
It's
screen?
like every time. He's always like having some sort of emotional breakdown, and I'm like, kid, it's been 2 years. I need you to process these emotions
get over
better.
This stuff. Because he does have the trauma of his village getting attacked, but I like that his trauma is outside of you guys finding him almost dead in the desert. Like that's not what he's upset about. It's all the past.
It's like, okay, but anyway, so that's one of the things that I think Wilds actually does pretty well is I like the new characters, even though the story therein is completely not interesting to me. And the handler in particular is such an upgrade. However, there is a little caveat to that because number 2 on my list of complaints was your quest board, which in previous games has been a physical, like community style pin board that you go to post and to accept quests that other people have posted.
Okay.
That is now solely something that lives at Alma. Alma is a person. She's an NPC, and she moves around. And if you're trying to find Alma to join the quest that your friend just posted, but she's not at her usual spot because the area in the story that you're currently at is different from your friend's, so she's not sitting where she's supposed to be. It is infuriating that they chose to make that decision instead of just putting a little fake pixel board in the game that you could go to post and accept quests.
What a dumb decision.
It's so dumb.
Because that would drive me insane.
And it's not just Alma. Sometimes the blacksmith. So this is a very important character in Monster Hunter because you make new armor and weapons all the time. And Gemma, the blacksmith, as a character, she's great. Everybody likes Gemma. She's like the waifu of Monster Hunter Wilds. But sometimes she's not where she's supposed to be either. Sometimes she moves around.
Why do you have a traveling blacksmith? Like, come on, it's got to be hard hauling around.
I really need you to be at the forge where you're supposed to be. And sometimes because of story beats, sometimes they just won't be there.
Stardew did that. I was trying to think of another game that did that. That was just like so fucking annoying when you were trying to like complete a task. And guess what? Leah's not at her house, but you have to give her 20 boards to complete this mission. Oh my God, that stuff is so annoying.
It's annoying. Yeah. And this is compounded by another both micro and macro problem that I'm really sort of seeing in Wilds that I've never seen in a Monster Hunter game before, because both World and Rise had areas of the game that most people would call the gathering hub. Mm-hmm. You probably remember this from World because it was like the airship that people would go to hang out. You would go sit at the tables and you would raise your tankard and you would pretend to get drunk. It was super fun.
Yep.
And then in Rise, the gathering hub was like a Japanese hot springs, and it had I think that was in the later edition, but it was awesome because you could go literally sit in the hot springs with your friends, and it was just a cool, fun touch. The Gathering Hub definitely gives Monster Hunter a specific communal feel that you notice if it's not there. And Wilds currently does not have a Gathering Hub. Now, to be fair, I have read in various sources online that Capcom is planning a pretty big update for Monster Hunter in April.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure when, but the April update is rumored to be introducing a Gathering Hub again, which I really think that that's like a necessary feature of Monster Hunter.
Again, odd choice that wouldn't be included
Why
at
wouldn't
launch
it already be
because
included?
it's a massively online multiplayer
it
game.
is, yeah.
The majority of the people who are playing Monster Hunter are probably not doing the single player version. I mean, they do play it, I'm sure, but that's
You have
not
no
where they're
choice.
spending.
You have to play the single player if
That's
you
not
want to
where
play
they're
the
going to
game.
spend the majority of their time. The majority of the time, they are going to be taking the assignment hunts that they can get going and playing with their friends. So that is odd that there's not a way to make that easier of like being and interacting and hanging out with those people. Because like even Tekken, for example, you can make a ranked match or go to online matches and play against other people from the main menus and in those main screens. But then you can also go to the lounge and run around with your avatar and see other people
Yes.
going around and playing. And that does kind of like build that community feel to it.
Exactly.
Weird choice.
Weird choice, especially because, you know, every time you make a new weapon or a new armor set, you want to show off. You want to
Right.
show it off to your buds. And the problem of not having a Gathering Hub in Wilds specifically is deeply compounded by the fact that there are multiple what would be considered base camps, because there's a base camp in the plains, there's a base camp in the forest, there's a base camp at the forge, there's a base camp at the ice cliffs, and then there are lots of little camps on top of that. So if you join an online lobby with your friends, even a squad lobby with your friends, and your hunter is at a part in the story where they are defaulting back to the Ice Cliffs base camp,
Okay.
but your friend's part of the story is defaulting back to the Plains base camp, that means that you do not physically see each other in the game when you are at separate camps. And that hurts
That
the
does.
community and friendship. Like, it seems like such a
Because-
small thing, but it hurts the experience.
But that's what we would do. Like when we were
Yes.
playing Rise and
Yep.
stuff like that, you would get ready for the mission. You would get ready. You would get all your gear together.
You go
we
make
would Go out,
poses.
we would go out and
Yes.
pose and like have
You
a
gotta
big
go
group
pose,
shot.
and then
If you
everybody
can't
hits that
do
they're ready
that-
for the quest. And if
Oh
you
my
can't do
God.
that, so that's one of the many problems. And then that is further compounded by the fact
Just
that
keep snowballing
just
here.
keep snowballing. So there are a few other like smaller things that are still deeply annoying. So a couple of the other little complaints, I'm just going to fire these off kind of real quick. The game will always spawn you back at whatever your most recent story base camp is.
Okay.
Meaning that even if you go to the forest base camp to be with your friend, and then you both depart on a quest, when that quest ends, you go back to the ice cliffs. Your friend stays at the forest. It's like, why wouldn't you put me back where I left from? I just it's why
Yeah, because
not?
like especially if you were if that was say last game of the night, you know, or last hunt of the night together, but you were gonna still stay on and do stuff, then you got to do another like load screen again. Very tiny like.
Yeah.
Grand scheme of thing issues, but I see how they just like keep
They stack
piling
up.
up. It's like again the annoying Tekken screen of, hey, I want to go play online mode. I clicked and selected online mode. You don't need to tell me that online mode is only available in online mode. And would I like to enter online mode? Yeah. Yes, I would.
The answer
because
is
I said
obviously yes.
yes to clicking the online mode button.
It's incredibly infuriating. And another thing.
Okay.
So this is kind of a smaller one, but it definitely feels less beginner friendly.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, I've played the hunting horn in most of my Monster Hunter games, and I'm still playing it in Wilds, but I've also decided to pick up the dual blades, which
Ooh,
I've never really
fun.
tried before.
Yeah.
Now, Monster Hunter has something, or Wilds has something called the practice arena, where you can go and presumably learn to use your weapons. But it does not really explain the finer details of what it really means to optimize using a weapon. A great example of that with the dual blades is when you equip the dual blades, you actually have two little sword meters up in your top right corner. Usually most weapons have one, and that's to show how blunt or sharp your weapon is.
Okay.
When your weapon sharpness gets too blunt, you have to stop and sharpen real quick. That is for all weapons. They all work that way. But the dual blades has two. one for sharpness, and then another one that I could not fucking figure out what it was for. And practice mode did not explain what it was. I just kind of had to figure it out on my own and/or ask Snooty Boots and Bro Mogan, like, what do you guys think this is? So it's apparently the meter that tracks whether or not, like, how far you're at in something that is dual blades specific called demon mode. So if you're using the dual blades and then you go into demon mode, which depletes your stamina faster but gives you greater combos and attack strength, you're like filling up a separate meter, but your stamina meter is going down, and the practice mode just kind of doesn't really explain how all of those elements work together. So if you are trying to learn a new weapon in Monster Hunter, you have to go to YouTube. Like, you will not be able to get that from the game's built-in practice mode, which is not a good system.
Yeah.
It's not great. Now, I think that you could still probably, through context clues and failure, eventually figure out how most of the weapons work on your own just by playing the game outside of practice mode, but it is not a very intuitive system.
But there's also already so many other systems in a Monster Hunter game and other things you're trying to keep track of.
Menus.
Understanding how your weapons work would be one of the things that you kind of want to be pretty easy, I feel like.
Yeah.
You know?
And then one final thing, and this honestly might be the quality of life thing that annoys me the most. You remember this from your past Monster Hunter games, the item box. How every time you're about to depart on a quest, or when you come back from a quest, there's usually a set of like recommended items that most hunters want in their item pouch at any given time. Those are things like potions, antidotes, your whetstone to sharpen your weapon, nullberries, explosive barrels, tranquilizer bombs. There are things that you kind of always want in your item pouch, and then there's your total inventory, which stays in the item box. There is no item box in Monster Hunter Wilds. Instead, every single time you want to manage your armor, your weapons, or more importantly, your inventory, you have to physically go into your tent. It involves a small cutscene, and you have to like be in the tent, and then when you come back out, there's another little loading screen. The fact that I have to go through 2 loading screens to change out my gear and my items every time I'm leaving for a quest is infuriating.
Yeah, you want that something to be that like you're all again standing in the hub, like outside the area before you're ready to go. You're doing your last minute changes, your last minute adjustments there. That's when you want to be doing it, not having to go to a specific location and have it tied. Interesting that they tie that to a specific location, but then they tie the other like board quests to a roving character.
It is
interesting.
And the item box used to always be something that just sort of sat near the quest board.
Right.
So it made sense because you would go to the quest board, and then your item box is usually like kind of right there. And then so you go change your loadouts.
And then wasn't the item box also at the starting point of the hunt as well?
Yes. So if you needed to like rapidly redo your item loadouts, don't worry. There's an item box.
You don't have to leave the hunt and come back.
Yes, but that doesn't exist anymore. Instead, you now have your Sacrets pouch. But the Sacrets pouch has pretty limited availability, and it's usually preloaded with things like first aid meds, nullberries, like just a couple of things that the hunter might need that you forgot, rations, shit like that. But that in and of itself presents a problem, because if you want to access the Sacrets pouch, you have to mount the Sacred. And then you don't necessarily have to walk on it, but you have to be on it.
You can't just walk up next to it and access the satellite.
No,
oh my God.
You have to get on the monster to get to the pouch.
Some odd choices here.
Monster Hunter, what were you fucking thinking? I don't understand.
Wow. Interesting.
So this is what I mean when I say Monster Hunter Wilds is a very good, very fun game. Truly in spite of itself.
Yeah, it sounds like it's trying to set up every single barrier to entry to get you into actually playing the game that it can.
I cannot imagine what Wilds must feel like to a brand new player. Like, literally to mean, is it better? Is it better because you don't have sort of the legacy knowledge that is perhaps weighing me and other players down?
Sure.
Or is it worse because you don't have the legacy knowledge, so everything is 10 times more confusing? I don't know which is which.
I feel like it would be probably somewhere in the middle. Like, I'd say I'm new. Well, I don't know. I mean, I haven't put near. I've played the same amount. I haven't played Wilds yet, but I've played Worlds and Rise to some extent. Not as many hours as you or Bro Mogan and Snooty Boots have done. But like, I feel like it would probably land in the middle for me, where like I wouldn't know what I was missing, so I wouldn't miss it. But then at the same time, there would be things that I'd be like, man, this feels kind of clunky.
You want to know something else? Every time you're out and about in the world and you're collecting items, there's resource collection in Monster Hunter. You need all kinds of stuff to craft other stuff. It's a core part of the game. When your item pouch fills up, every single time you get a new item that you maybe want to collect, the game will pull up a little menu that says, hey, your item pouch is full. Do you want to send this to the field pouch or to the item pouch? And do you want to drop something else to do that? And it's like, no. You should be defaulting to putting everything excess into the item box, which we do not have. Why are you asking me? Why do I have to deal with this little pop-up screen every time this happens?
Because if it's something you want to use, chances are you probably have a slot available for it because you use the thing that you're trying to refill.
Everything else is just fun stuff that you're collecting.
God.
It's so annoying.
Weird. That is so weird because these are problems that like games have solved.
Yes,
many games have solved.
Exactly.
And so it's interesting that they kind of like seemingly revert back to like more obtuse systems.
It's especially frustrating because Rise specifically got a lot of this stuff right.
Mm-hmm.
Like Rise was by and large, from both the online mode and just sort of the quality of life systems, a more streamlined, I don't even want to say simplified because I don't really think that's the right word. It was just more streamlined. It was more user friendly the way that they had it. So to go from Rise to Wilds is really jarring. I think that maybe if I had just gone from World to Wilds, that might be a little bit less noticeable because, again, Wilds is from the same team as World.
Sure.
Certain things would make more sense. But even given that, Wilds has made choices that World did not that are objectively worse. Most of that has to do with quality of life stuff, and specifically if you're like me and you don't give a shit about the story, the cutscenes and the story that you just have to slog through. However, I know that was a lot of negativity.
I was about to say, does this come around?
I know that was a lot of negativity all at once. I just wanted to get it off my chest, and because I feel like a lot of those complaints are going to be the most noticeable within those first 10 hours. Because after that, I think you're just sort of going to acclimate to the systems, for lack of a better term. Not that that's necessarily a good thing, but I feel like it will annoy me less as time goes on, fingers crossed, and that they make more changes to the game that improve some of the systems they've currently got going on. So, what the game does right is everything to do with the gameplay and the action. First of all, let's talk about the monsters, because the monsters are phenomenal. Most of the like early game little like great Jagras bosses, for lack of a better term, your Kulu, your Koos, your not the Paolumu, the one that go blah, blah, that's got a big tongue and a big poison tail. What is that guy called? I forget his name, but he's a fun, silly guy.
Yeah,
don't worry about it.
I kind of know what you're talking about, but I can't place it.
You'd recognize him. He looks like a fun, silly lizard, chameleon, Quetzalcoatl thing. Anyways, it doesn't matter. The point is that all of the monster designs in Wilds are excellent. From the little scrubby monsters that you fight early on to the more badass monsters that you slowly start to unlock as you actually get into high rank. So like I said earlier, I have just recently gotten into high rank, and the past 3-4-ish monsters that I fought both on my way and into the beginning of high rank are some of the most fun monsters that I've encountered.
Nice.
I don't want to like talk about them too much because it might give spoilers away, but I'm just going to say it anyways.
Okay.
One of them is basically just a big fire octopus, and it's awesome. So he's such a silly guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's huge. He's on fire.
Incredible.
His, like, octopus skin is inky black, so he's very intimidating. But, like, he makes these really funny noises. And when he, like, runs away to move from one area to another, his hilarious tentacle scuttling, it fills me with joy. I see him leave, and I'm like, look at him go. It is so funny. I think he's phenomenal. The one of the early game monsters, the Ballerina, the Balahara, the Bulbasaur, the spider. It's one of the big spiders. Actually, you might remember this from the trailers. It's the God, I wish I could remember its name. I want to say the ballerina, but I don't think that's right. Anyways, it's like a super fancy red carnation-esque spider that can poison you and paralyze you. You would hate it, but I think it's
sounds
awesome.
like I would hate it.
It's very cool and very excellent. So the big silly octopus guy is phenomenal. There's a thing that we all just call the flying ice tapeworm because that's what it looks like. So the game is, and there's this other new thing. Oh, this one's one of my favorites. He's just such a silly little goober of a guy called the Rompopolo.
Rompopolo.
The Rompopolo.
That sounds like a pizza place you would find downtown.
like a pizza place you'd find downtown. But no,
Come to Rompopolo's. We got the best pizza slices around.
he's a big, insane insect that's got like a big, long proboscis that he uses to like inject into the ground. And he
Don't like that.
shoots air into the ground, which causes the ground around your feet to explode. What a fun monster.
Wow.
And then he's also got another one on his butt, and the butt will sometimes get you. And it's just like, oh my God. There's
The farts.
The farts. Well, there's actually another monster called the Congalala. It's like a sort of orangutan ape-like thing, and it does legitimately fart at you. And if you get hit, it'll belch at you and it'll fart at you. And if you get farted on, you get hit with something called... Oh, I don't remember exactly what it's called. Smell blight.
Incredible.
You get stanked is basically what it is. And if you've got the stank on you, that's really bad because you can't use your items.
Oh, no.
So if you've got the stank and you can't use a potion, you're fucked.
So how do you get the stank off?
There's specific items that you can use to get rid of it called like deodorants, where you just kind of throw them down and it's just like how
Axe body
deodorant
spray.
works, and it's like Axe body spray. It's exactly what it's like. Or I think if you like do a certain amount of dodges on the ground enough times in a row, it'll dissipate on its own.
Okay.
Or it'll just dissipate on its own over time. But it's just hilarious that a monster farts at you.
That's very
What
funny.
a 10 out of 10. And then there's also the silly monsters have a special place in my heart, but there are also like big intimidating monsters, like a new one. So this is actually new to Wilds and isn't like a legacy monster from the previous games, called the Ray Dow.
Oh.
The Ray Dow is like the Rathalos in that it's kind of a more traditional dragon design. But this one's a lightning dragon. And he's got like these two big horizontal horns on the sides of his head, which are very, very cool. But when he does special lightning attacks, the horns snap forward to like basically make a rail gun. So he
so
can
cool.
shoot lightning at you. And it's like, oh
Damn,
my
that's
God,
cool.
he's
That's
so
cool.
awesome. And then this is the thing that I want to talk about that is honestly, I think, one of the top tier things about Wilds. Most of these monsters, like anything that is sort of a fancier high rank monster, they each come with their own amazing soundtracks.
Really?
The soundtrack for Wilds fucking slaps.
yeah. I'll have to go check it out.
It goes so hard. The track that plays for the stupid fire octopus is amazing. It's so fun. It's so cool. It's got like what almost sounds like maybe harpsichord or some Spanish guitar in the background. The Ray Dow has like just awesome shit going on all the time because he's
So
like a
cool.
big, scary, and awe-inspiring monster. So the soundtrack is a total knockout 10 out of 10.
Hell yeah.
So the soundtrack slaps. The action itself is very fun, getting to know all the different weapons. You can try out any of the like 8, 10-ish weapon classes. Gun lance, bow, light bow gun, heavy bow gun, hunting horn, dual blades, long blade, switch axe, switch axe, hammer, bug lance. I can't remember what it's called. And I feel like I'm forgetting one.
Sword and shield?
Sword and shield. Everybody forgets the sword and shield. But my point being, there are at least 10,
Yeah.
possibly more than that I'm forgetting, weapons that you can pick and choose from. And each of the weapons has like very satisfying branches of upgrades.
Okay.
Because obviously you're fighting all these monsters to use their parts to go back to base, which moves around all the time, to go back to base that moves around all the time, to craft new armor sets that are all modeled after the monsters you've defeated.
Very cool.
So, like, if you just fought the Ray Dow, you get to go back to base and look at its amazing armor set and figure out, okay, I gotta fight it a few more times because I still need a claw, or I'm missing a plate, which is the rare drop. So that core gameplay loop of fight the monster, figure out what upgrades the monster can give you, figure out if you want those upgrades. If you want those upgrades, what do you need from the monster?
Right.
Fight the monster more. And then like, oh, it's not my turn anymore. Now it's my brother's turn to pick the monster. So we'll go fight his monster. But then it's my other friend's turn to fight their monster. And then it's my turn again. And that's how you get into that just really satisfying loop of hours go by and you blink and you miss it because you were so deep in the game that it's just like time flies by because you're having so much fun.
So that's a good intro to a question then, because one of the things that I also got, I was thinking about when trying to decide if I was going to play Wilds or not, because obviously, like, if you listen to past episodes, I was thinking about playing it, still on the fence or anything like that. But then I got thinking that like a thing that has really kind of stopped me lately with some games, such as like Helldivers 2, for example. How long are we looking at each hunt? Like time wise, because I know you can piddle around, you can look for resources, you can find extra stuff. But if you just went in, because like this does still sound super fun hearing you talk about it, and of course I'm like having FOMO now. But it is kind of the thing of like, it would be nice if I could get more, if I would have time for more than one monster hunt at a time, kind of a thing.
So that's a hard question to answer because it varies wildly. So for example, last night when we were playing, Bro Mogan needed to fight a sort of lower level monster called the Chemitrice a few times to get igniter fluid.
Okay.
So because we were already kind of over leveled for that specific monster, those fights were comedically short. Those hunts only took maybe not even a full 5 minutes of in-game time.
Wow. Okay.
So if you're like a little bit higher rank than the monster, they can be really, really short. But I think the first time I fought the Ray Dow, it killed me twice.
Oh, shit.
And you can only die 3 times on a quest before you fail the quest and you have to try again. So I was almost failing out. So the Ray Dow killed me a couple of times, so I probably spent maybe 20 to 30 minutes in that fight.
So you could still get like 2 to 3.
Oh, yeah.
Because like, honestly, like I wish I had more time to do more things, but like it honestly like pans out to I have about like an hour, maybe an hour and a half, or something like that. So like, it's kind of the thing of just like, okay, so in that amount of time, I feel like could get some bigger monster hunts in, get to some stuff, but then still have time to get some smaller ones in there. So you could get quite a few fights in, and
you definitely could.
2 to 3,
assuming that no one in your party or you have to sit through any cutscenes. Now, of course, you can skip them. You can skip them.
Now say, if I do get the game, when I do get the game later on and stuff like that, you, Bromogan, and Snooty Boots will be way far ahead of me. Yes. I will be able to crunch through the single player stuff and story stuff. Now, at that time, after I've gotten through all the story stuff, the intro story stuff set up and all that stuff, can I then jump around and join with y'all pretty easily? Or is it the kind of thing where like, because y'all are Hunter rank 10 at that point, and I'm only 2, do y'all have to like dumb down yourselves to play with me, basically?
So if you were joining people that had already been playing for a while and they were beyond HR 5, which is that threshold into high rank, really, you would probably have to get to HR 5 yourself before you could really, air quotes, play with your friends, because otherwise, like, that drop off back into low rank is so sharp. I mean, just frankly, your friends probably wouldn't want to go back that far, because it would, again, those would be like hunts that take 2 to 3 minutes. They would go by in no time. And I feel like that wouldn't even be fun for you, because then you're not really getting to learn to play the game.
Because then y'all hit it once and it's dead.
And he's dead. So you're not really getting to use your weapons and getting to learn what works for you and try out your new armor sets. So I would say that you would still need to play the single player mode up to HR 5 before you could really, air quotes, play the game.
Got it.
Now, again, it took me about 10 to 11 hours to do that. If you did it and you knew you didn't care a lick about the story, you could skip every cutscene and you could severely shorten that time.
Okay.
So it just depends. It depends on what type of player you are.
It was definitely the kind of thing that as it got closer to time, because like I have really enjoyed, like Rise was so much fun playing that and everything, getting into it. But it is kind of the thing as it got closer, like I was worried about the time commitment to it. And also too, kind of wanted to see how it stacked up and how it stood, because since I am not quite as big of a fan. Okay.
Big caveat.
Okay.
This is not something that I have a lot of personal insight into because I didn't get the game on PC.
Okay.
But everyone and their mother. So I'm playing it on PS5, but
I'd probably get it on PS5 too, honestly.
Because you should. But Bro Mogan and Snooty Boots both got it for PC, and apparently this is like a known thing. Supposedly the PC, not port, just the PC edition of the game is I could not tell you how, but everyone says it is severely suboptimized.
Oh, I have
to
seen
play
some
on
stuff about
PC.
apparently like
Yeah.
like frame rate drops and different stuff like that. I don't honestly know that like. I think my PC might be getting like I've been eyeing potentially needing to do like a graphic card update. Sometime
Snooty
soon.
Boots has like a pretty advanced PC that's like a custom build, and he still said that it took him a few hours
See, I
in
don't
the
like-
settings messing with the game to get it to a playable state.
See, I don't have time for
That's
that.
not acceptable.
That's not acceptable.
Just
for me.
play on
PS5.
PS5. Yeah, so if you're at home and you're wondering what to get the game on, I would say don't wait for them to fix the PC version. They might not ever even fix
Yeah.
it. Get it for console. It seems to be the better experience. I am at least not experiencing performance issues. Like, that's not something that I've encountered. Other than the rare lobby error code, well, they're not even that rare. Other than lobby error codes and communication errors, yeah. Other than that, I like don't have stuttering. I don't have
nice.
frame rate drops that I've noticed. So for the console players out there, I honestly think it might be the better experience at this point.
Cool.
Maybe they'll fix it in the future, but maybe they won't. And you shouldn't count on that.
I'm sure it will be a thing. That I feel like that thing eventually gets fixed with a patch, but still, having to spend hours on a new game just in the settings, that would turn me off of it as well. So no, I'll definitely get it on PS5 whenever I eventually do get it. But it sounds like a fun time and everything like that. Probably just might be a sale purchase for me as well.
And that's perfectly fine. But if you want to go ahead and get Monster Hunter Wilds now, I would still recommend it. If you've played past Monster Hunter games and you enjoyed that gameplay, you will love Wilds. There's just going to be a lot of little needling quality of life things that just every so often come through and just stab you in the kidneys, and you're like, God, one of them got me again. So there's just a lot of little things on the edges that are going to make you really mad. But when you're actually playing the game with your friends, it is still very fun.
Hell yeah.
Hell
Love
yeah.
to hear it.
Yeah.
Love to hear it. Well, as always, if you have been playing Monster Hunter Wilds and have thoughts, well, we would love to hear them. So send us an email at teamchatpodcast@gmail.com or comment below wherever you're listening to or watching the show. But I think that concludes this episode, wraps up your first impressions of Monster Hunter Wilds. And with that, also wraps up this episode of Team Chat Podcast. Until next time, everybody, I'm one of your hosts, Gerald Wilson, joined to my right by Rachel Mogan.
Adios.
We will see you on the next episode.